Welcome back to the series of lessons where we talk about software development methods. In the last lesson, we looked at the context of software development and the waterfall model, which is the older fashioned model. In this lesson, we'll look at more modern agile development methods. We'll talk about what iterative methods are in general and how agile development methods work. We'll think about the advantages and problems of the agile model, and we'll look at a possible solution to this called extreme programming, or XP. There are 4 iterative methods. Remember, the iterative methods are where we have a cycle of repetitively developing, improving and releasing the software. In this lesson, we'll look at Agile and XP, which are fast and frequent releases of software, as opposed to Spiral and RAD, which we'll look at in the next lesson. Agile programming involves a very fast development cycle and strong involvement of the users in the process, so that a product is quickly produced that meets the user's needs, but is constantly being upgraded with new versions. This might sound familiar to you. On your phone, you're probably always seeing your software apps being upgraded. This diagram shows the process. You don't have to follow every bit of it, but basically it's a very fast method for turning around and releasing new versions of software. On the left, we can see something called the product backlog. That's a list of all the improvements and fixes that are needed or have been identified. A shorter list is picked out from that long list for immediate implementation, and that's called the script backlog. So that would be given to the team of programmers that 3 or 4 things perhaps that need fixing urgently, and they would concentrate on that short list. And then that whole process, it might just take them 2 to 4 weeks to quickly, it's sometimes called a sprint because the emphasis is fast and hard work. In 2 to 4 weeks, they will attempt to clear that short list of urgent fixes. And then every day they will meet and identify the priorities for that particular day. So we've got a daily cycle of tasks to be done that day and a sprint of a few weeks to clear the entire list of urgent fixes. And at the end of that very short sprint, we should have an improved version, not perfect, but improved version of the software, which is then released to the customers. It's here in this diagram, it's called shippable. That means it's ready to go. It can go to the customers. So let's just look at some of the key terms that I've just introduced. The backlog would be the list of new features and new features to be added, improvements and problems, bugs that need to be fixed in the software. They're often security flaws, for example. The sprint is the very fast 2 to 4 week development process where a team of programmers sit down with the short list of changes and try to clear them all. The scrum is the team meeting where the team commit to clearing the backlog in daily cycles. So they'll meet at the start of the day, sort out what they've got to do that day, and try and not go home basically until they've cleared that work. And the increment is the new release that's got those items fixed, and but rarely will it be perfect. It's just another stage in the development process. You probably, as I was describing this, can see how these methods, these collectively known as agile methods, offer a lot of improvements over the traditional slow and steady software development process. It's fast, and that means that you're getting stuff ready to sell very rapidly. Your money starts coming in quite quickly. It's also more responsive to customer feedback. So if your customers are have got a complaint about your project, you can add it to the priority list and fix it very rapidly within just a few weeks, and that makes your customers happy and they feel that they're being listened to. You're always producing software that's good enough, even if it's not perfect, and you've got a constant income stream because there's always something ready to sell. Can you think what the problems might be with this methodology, with this very rapid turnaround? And I'd like you to think about problems for the programming team. What's it like to work in an agile programming environment, and any problems there might be for the product that is being released. So it is generally acknowledged that there are problems for programmers with the agile development methodology. It can be very stressful. The days can be long and the sprints can be exhausting. Some programmers have complained that there's a kind of blame culture. You'll be given a task to do, and if you can't do it, you're blamed for that, that it affects their quality of life, that there's burnout. So these are real issues, and if you talk to programmers, you'll find that they're interested in these topics and often feel that it affects the quality of their work and their life. There are also problems for the product that's produced in this way. Every time the sprint is only fixing and improving some of the items on the backlog. So that means that the cycle of improvement is never finished and the product is never perfect. And it's always just good enough for its next release. And for some kinds of software, that's good enough. For instance, a game, if a computer game is not perfect, but it's always improving, that's fine. You wouldn't want this for software that's doing something that is critical for instance, health and safety. One way that people have tried to improve on the agile development methodology is sometimes called XP or extreme programming. That's a kind of word that hasn't got a precise dictionary definition, but generally where you see that term used, extreme programming, it means that the programmers will work in pairs rather than alone, and they'll tend to support each other and try to create simple solutions that reduce burnout and stress. As I say, it's not set in stone, but in general, if you see, for instance, a job advert that says that we use XP, they mean that you'll be working perhaps more supportively with a colleague. And I found I just copied this off the internet, a company had released a statement of what their values are in line with XP, communication, feedback, respect, and make it easier, I think, for programmers to ask for help. And it's worth, if you're ever looking for a job, talking to your prospective employer about some of these issues. So let me just summarize what we've said. Agile methods are modern ways of developing software in an iterative way where there are frequent upgrades and it's very intensive. There's been an effort to adapt it, and for some reason these new methods are called XP, and there's more emphasis on support and welfare. So let's recap. You should know in general what iterative methods are and what the agile development methodology with its sprints and scrums looks like, and how it's been adapted in the modern world to something called extreme programming or XP. In the next lesson, we'll look at some other versions of the iterative methodology that are more structured, they don't have such a fast turnaround time, but they attempt to manage risk more carefully. So it's used for more larger and more safety critical software. And the two methods we'll look at are spiral and rad. In the meantime, here's an activity. Create a list of the advantages and disadvantages of the agile methodology. And I don't usually do this, but I'm going to show you the list now. So if you want to do it on your own, please pause the video, because I'm just going to show you some of the advantages and disadvantages in a table. So I'm not going to go through all those. There they all are. I've spoken about all of those. So check your own work, and if you've missed any of those out, it's worth noting them down. Okay, I'll see you next lesson. Bye for now.